Hi everyone, I'm Corey Berry and I don't have a portfolio. And there's only one way to fix that, and that's of course free art. So I posted on TikTok that I'm open for requests free to draw your OCs free of charge for free labor, just as long as you let me post it and practice on you, my little rat. And thankfully I received a lot of submissions, which was really nice and totally unexpected. I genuinely wanted to draw every single one of them. There are so many more that I have on my to-do list, but yeah, I just don't have time. But I know that if I do this again, I'll definitely be picking more from those, or even more if you guys send me more. But yeah, I'll start with the first one. It was this drawing by Katina Tupe, and I'm so sorry if I butcher your name, but oh my goodness, look at this design. I was absolutely obsessed. I loved the hair and the piercings and just how interesting the design was. And I knew I wanted to make a portrait drawing of this one. So first, I made sure I have a reference. I used Clip Studio Paint's 3D model with like a specific lighting that I wanted, and I put it on the side. First I made a silly little quick sketch, and then I started doing a line art. One of the things I really wanted to work on in this little challenge is to make a process for myself. I'm an artist and I've been an artist for so many years, but I don't have a set process. So throughout all of these drawings, you're gonna notice that my process is always changing because I'm trying to find the one process that I want to keep throughout my art. And honestly, it was really enjoyable. I wanted to keep his resemblance as much as I could, which was a little bit of a tricky situation because we clearly have different styles, but I really wanted to keep the essence of each OC into the drawings. Honestly, adding the jewelry and the piercings that he had was so fun because it reminded me a lot of the jelly art style, and I know a lot of people like to talk bad about it, but I actually love it. I think it looks really cute, and I love how they do the jewelry, so I was like, yay, an opportunity for me to explore that part. And then when it came to colors, I definitely used colors that I've probably never used before. I've used a lot more saturated colors than I usually use, which was inspired by a lot of drawings that I saw on Pinterest before starting this drawing, and I really wanted to experiment and try new things and just have fun with it, which is really nice. I don't think I've done that in so long, and in a way it removes the fun from art. Experimentation is so hard but also so fun, and you come out with it with a lot more new knowledge and experience. But to be honest, it was still very challenging for me using the lighter blue color as a shading color, which definitely far from my usual like brown multiply type of color. I really just wanted to make it look interesting. I wanted to make him look as if he was in sunlight, but clearly I did not know what I was doing. So when I turned it into grayscale, it was kind of flat. So I just tried to add darker shadows and just accentuate my shading a little bit more so that it looks more interesting. And then I wanted to add some leaves around him, just like a frame and just an interesting example of a simple background. But at that point I was already so exhausted and didn't want to put too much detail in those leaves because first of all I didn't want to take away from the focal point, which was his face, but I also was lazy, to be honest. And I just tried a little bit of simple shading and then I just blurred the heck out of it. And it worked. Oh, in my opinion. And this is the end result. For the next one, it is this OC by Angie, and I kid you not, I was obsessed with this OC. I remember it was like a watermelon type of spy, and it was so cool that they said that. Like, my OCs are not that cool. Time for a little bit of self-reflection. Anyways, I knew I wanted to do a full body action type of pose, and of course I went to Pinterest to find a reference for that. I enjoyed this a lot. I tried to skew or kind of like twist the composition just to make it more interesting and more dynamic, you know? And then I started with a rough sketch and then cleaned it up with a good liner. And if I thought that it was hard to catch the resemblance with the last OC, well, for this one it's definitely a lot harder because the difference between our styles was just more than a little bit, to say the least. Their style was like more of the anime valley and mine was more of the semi-realistic valley, and together they got lost in translation, and it was just so hard to figure out what her face would look like. But I just imagined. I took some liberty and this is how I imagined her to look. For this one, I definitely wanted to try a different technique. I remember watching a YouTuber's video about rendering. I don't remember his name, but I feel like the guy with a YouTube art school. Sorry, by the way, I love your videos. But anyway, he was mentioning how the best way to render is to do grayscale first and then use gradient maps, which was interesting because his grayscale was not the type of grayscale that you would normally use because it did not take the actual color of what you're shading into consideration. Now, get this. When you actually use grayscale, if you're gonna, for example, shade this shirt and shade my skin, you would definitely shade the shirt in a different level of darkness than my skin. You would use a darker set of gray shades than you would use in my skin. But with his technique, he used the same range, which was very confusing for me and very hard to remember while painting, so it was definitely a struggle. But I did it as best as I could. And I also tried to use his brushes, which were amazing, to be honest. They gave this perfect texture for her pants. I am absolutely obsessed. It's not the most realistic, to be fair, but I was just obsessed with the texture. It was so fun. And then I really like how I shaded the jacket. I don't know why, but I really did. Like, it was so fun, and I love like how it looks. It just looks so cute. But anyways, did the grayscale, and then I tried to do the gradient maps. For the gradient maps, I did not know what I was doing. It took me quite a bit. And then even after the grayscale, I had to like come back and revisit a lot of the layers, fix them up a little bit more. This painting took so long. I think it was like 12 hours, but I think the problem was me. I had to draw the freaking background. I wanted it to be like a cityscape, you know, like she's on the roof of some building being a spy, fighting watermelons or capturing them, or I don't know, but I just wanted it to be cool, you know. Perspective just had other plans for me, and I was not able to freaking do the background. I was literally crashing out. But eventually, I thank God for Clip Studio Acid, but I'm not sponsored. I used a 3D cityscape and I just painted over it, and I put some like light and stuff and some stars and clouds in the background, and I think it worked out. Hey, Editing Corey here, and one cheat that I absolutely forgot to mention was adding rim lights to all of the paintings at the end. It just made them all look so much more interesting so easily, and it just made them pop, and I absolutely love doing that. Definitely gonna do that more. For the last one, it was this character by Journey by the Moonlight, and I can't tell you how obsessed I am with this character. I absolutely love their design. I love the long hair and all the embroidery on their clothes and stuff. Like, she is so cute. It really makes me think about like how freaking boring my OCs are. But that's a story for another day. I'm definitely planning on revisiting them someday. Which, by the way, the subscribe button is down there if you wanna like stick around and check it out. But anyways, this one I wanted to do half body, and for this one I definitely wanted a more detailed background, which is a decision that bites me in the butt later because that did not work out. This painting took the longest, which you wouldn't expect from half body compared to the full body before it, but art does not work like that. It is not predictable, and it's not fair for you to try to predict it. But anyways, for this one I absolutely enjoyed it. It was so much fun, but I definitely messed something up. I don't know what, but there's something wrong that I did with this new process that I've learned. I I did something wrong. I probably just misunderstood. Maybe the two cells in my brain just were not feeling like working together that day. Most probably. And I say day, but this painting actually took like, I don't know, like maybe a month on and off to finish, which I'm sorry. But anyways, this was more of an art trade because Journey by Moonlight actually sent me a picture of one of my OCs, which was so cool. And it's a perfect opportunity to show you just how boring my OCs are compared to these amazing characters that I got the privilege to make art of. But it took me way too long and I had to apologize multiple times. It's really hard when you have a job and school and family and just like mental health, you know. But it was fun. I still tried to use the same process of like doing the black and white and then adding gradient maps. But for some reason, when I did add the gradient maps, they just looked so bad. And even then, the painting, I think my rendering was just not that good. And like the selection of the gradient maps, like not the colors, but where they're gonna apply on the painting, if that makes sense, it just was not well made. I definitely should have spent more time on that because I ended up having to paint over basically everything in the painting. But let's talk about the background first. The background, I just wanted her to look like she's leaning in a balcony and just like having some beer because her character drinks and she's a fun little character. But that meant I have to draw a street, and to draw a street that meant I have to know some perspective. Do you see where this is going? I was shooting myself in the foot. Like it was so hard. It was so difficult. And I feel like this challenge definitely shed light onto my weakest points, which for now is dominated by perspective. Maybe that's a video for the future. If you wanna subscribe to see me struggle, maybe improve, and share tips and tricks on how I improved. Just saying, like, it's free. Just saying, it's right there. So I struggled a lot with the background. I did not know where to put the electricity poles or electric poles, or I don't know what they're called, but I didn't know like where do they go, what kind of tilt or slant or ins and out they needed to be, which was exhausting. But I eventually just did whatever, and I'm just hoping that whoever sees the drawing has no idea what perspective is and how it's supposed to look like, which is great because I'm posting it on YouTube as an art account where more artists are gonna watch and see all my terrible, horrible mistakes. But it's okay. For the background, I started the background after I rendered the character, and at that point I was exhausted. Like, what do you mean I have to render brick by brick and window and a street and an electricity pole and all this stuff? Like, I don't want to do that. I just want to start coloring already. So obviously, because I was so excited to get to the coloring stage, I started cutting corners. And at that point, even the blur effect could not save me. It just looked bad. No matter what I did, it just looked bad. And that was not helped by the fact that the gradient maps were just not clicking. Something was wrong. The white hair was not white. The purples were weird. The yellows were not. And in my rendering, my shading was not sufficient. It was not good. So after the gradient maps, I just went in small brush, every detail, color picking and fixing my rendering. And I think that was crucial because it looks a lot better now. Made it look so much better. And I tried to do that with the background. But at this point, like, it was just a lost cause, friend. It was just, there was nothing I could do. For the sky though, I really wanted to make it look like a sunset type of, because most of her outfit was a bunch of purples. So to just bring more attention to her, I wanted most of the background to be in the yellows and orange hues so that she stands out and sticks out like a sore thumb, which is exactly what you want to do with your characters. But for some reason, that was a lot harder than I thought it would be, which means that after perspective, I need to learn how to paint backgrounds. I wanted to make sure that the cup she's holding looked like beer and she's drinking it and it's like fizzy and bubbly and looks good and I don't know, like interesting, but I really couldn't make it as good as I wanted it to be, but I think it came out fine eventually. For the hat, it was actually very hard for me. It was very confusing. I did not know the freaking anatomy of that hat. I could not figure that out. Like I don't understand how the form looks, which goes in, which goes out. Like I've seen references, okay, I have it on live stream, but it was just really hard for some reason. Eventually I got it as close as I can possibly make it, but as long as you don't pay too much attention to it, it's gonna be fine. The hair was honestly really fun to shade. It was a lot of hair, I'm not gonna lie, but it was really fun. And one trick that I did was to just paint large chunks. That's like the best tip that you can ever receive for hair. If you focus on the like limited little strands, it's just not gonna work out as good as you want it to. So I just focused on the big chunks and that worked out. And it looks great. And then I had to do my assignment, and that's fun. But what's more fun is that there's a podcast that I could use as research, and I could hypothetically paint while listening to the podcast. And technically that's studying, and it's also creating art. So that worked out. It was actually a very interesting podcast. It was about an artist whose name I absolutely forgot because I was just doing it for an assignment. And then I had to fix the background as much as I can, as best as I could, but obviously I don't think it worked. I think the background still needs a lot of work, but that's in terms of skill. I feel like where I am right now, I don't think I could have done any better with the background. Maybe a little bit better, but like not as good as I want it to be. So that's definitely an area that I need to work on with my art. But overall, I've been feeling pretty good about my art after those artworks. It makes me feel like I am improving, and it brought back a lot of fun that I used to have with art many years ago, and it's very nice to experience that again. It's also so much fun seeing everybody's reactions and how happy they were receiving them. So I definitely want to do this again someday, maybe as a giveaway, or I don't know if I want to build more in my portfolio. These are just 3 drawings in my portfolio now, so I definitely need more. I also need more time. Maybe someday I can quit my job and just like do this. if you would please. But anyways, these are all the artwork that I managed to make, and I'm really happy with them. I really hope you like them too. I had so much fun making these artworks and making this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. So if you want to see it, I'm not going to tell you to subscribe for the 1000th time this video, but I am going to tell you to comment. Let me know that you were here and you watched it, and leave a like if you could, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!